this young gentleman graduated from college in the last century. He's a co-recipient of the 2018 Morehouse College National Alumni Association Alumnus of the Year Award. For the past several years, he has been the vice president of the Chicago Area Alumni Chapter, where he has helped the Chicago chapter develop one of the strongest student pipelines for Morehouse in the country. He has extensive managerial and executive leadership experience with nonprofit, Fortune 100 companies, and privately held organizations, including Pepsi, Discovery Communications, and AutoNation. Mr. Levesque grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and credits the Boys and Girls Club for a large part of his early development. Please offer your ears to Mr. Michael Levesque for the next few minutes.
It's always good to give your guest an early round of applause, right? It makes them feel good about being here. Thank you for that, Professor Roden. Let's do the same thing for each of you guys. Round of applause. That was good work on your presentations. I was listening and taking notes, and actually I have a project that's coming up. You asked me what my current organization does with social media. And while we use some of these channels, I don't think that we use them very effectively. And so I'm going to use some university students like yourselves to analyze what we're doing and come up with some suggested strategies on how we can do it better, up to and including monetizing our social media presence. And so actually I got some notes, some nuggets from what you guys were presenting, so thank you for that. I think we have about 25 minutes or so before class lets out, and this will be my fourth or fifth time over the last several years getting a chance to come and present to students that are participating in one or more of Professor Roden's programs. I always enjoy the opportunity to do so. I get a chance to speak with what I'll call young people, younger than me is considered to be young people, in different parts of the country, and it's always good when I say talk with. What I mean is talk with, and so what we'll do is we'll get into some discussion and some discourse. As the current executive director of Morehouse College's National Alumni Association, I get to work with both students and alum and professors and stakeholders that care about what's going on at Morehouse College. Raise your hand if you know anything about Morehouse College, if you've heard the name before. You heard the name a little bit? Well, all right, so just I'm real big on interactive. So what I was thinking I was going to have you do is everybody roll their chair to the middle so I can look at everybody. But I'm going to let you stay where you are. But when we start to talk and interact, I got to make sure you're all right. So everybody's heard of what have you heard about Morehouse? Nothing you can remember. What do you think you know about Morehouse? Okay, it's in Atlanta.
It's an all male.
It is all male in Atlanta.
An HBCU.
It is a historically black college and university. No, it's way more to go. Anything else?
I don't know anything.
Okay.
Everything that I know has already been said.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, see, everything I know is already been said.
All right. Okay. So that's really scratching the surface, right? And so it's one of the oldest historically black colleges and universities. It's the only all-male that caters to the education and development of men of color. Although there have been others that have matriculated at Morehouse, its mission is to develop black boys into socially conscious black men that will go out into their respective communities, not just as men who have been educated but men that are intent on making the world a better place. And so when you take that as the mission and the construct of why you go get an education at a place like Morehouse, you had something you wanted to
I'll
offer?
wait till you're done.
Okay, then you step back and you say, okay, well, what does it mean to make the world a better place? Well, there's a lot of different ways to define that. And for the last 153 years, we've been able to tout that we've done it in a lot of different ways, from the pulpit, from political arenas, to creating wealth that drives industry in classrooms and across the globe. In many ways, our alum have gone out and in every field that you can think of, with intention, left their mark. Our most famous alum is, of course, Martin Luther King Jr. There are a slew of others that have name recognition: Spike Lee, Samuel L. Jackson, Edwin Moses, our most recent Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, and I could go on and on and on. Not to be braggadocious, but to just amplify that this is a place where Black excellence has a root. And I think that that's a wonderful place to transition to talk about what you guys are doing in this particular program.
Can anybody name the School of Business at our sister institution, the University of Maryland, College Park?
Robert H. Smith.
Sorry?
It's like Robert H. Smith, or I think this
Robert
is
F. Smith School of Business?
Yeah.
Huh.
So Robert Smith has a very distinct relationship with Morehouse. He's not an alum. A lot of people think that he is. Does anybody know anything about Robert Smith?
Wasn't he the guy that paid off like all the graduating classes, student loans, like a
Yeah.
year ago or something like that?
Yeah. In 2019, Robert Smith was our commencement speaker, and he shocked the world when he announced during his remarks that he was going to relieve everybody in that graduating class of any debt that they had. Why do you think he did that?
To give everybody a leg up in the world that some other people are afforded to because their family is wealthy or whatever the circumstance is, and give them like a fair playing field once they enter the workforce.
Yeah, not just a fair playing field to participate in the workforce, but go back to how I described the mission of Morehouse. What did I say about kind of why we think we exist?
To consciously educate males of color to make the world a better place.
Absolutely. What's your name?
Christian.
Christian, thank you for that. And so when you take that and you talk about equity and the opportunity to dream big and do boldly what you decide to do in the world, right? When your heart drives you and your passion drives you towards something, and you can be the absolute best at that without encumbrances, right? Without having to be saddled with the burden of student debt. And so if I've trained someone to be the absolute best second grade teacher that he can be, he can now go do that without having to worry about the incredibly low salary that he's going to get paid, right, as an educator in the American education system, because now he's free to do that. right? Or if I really want to be a doctor, right? But I'm looking at, $60,000 of undergraduate debt, and then I got to pile on whatever comes along with medical school debt. I might decide that ain't really a route that I can afford to pursue, right? So being relieved of that was of those burdens for 500 plus black men in America, arguably changed the course of human history. That's how big of an impact we think the Robert Smith gift will be 20, 40, 60, 80 years from now.
One of those young men who graduated is also an alumnus of Prince George's Community College, who is now studying at Columbia because he does not have the $30,000 debts he would have had when he graduated from Morehouse.
It's a big deal. Yeah. And PG County, PG Community College, County College has a pipeline program here to Morehouse College. So we also share that special relationship. So I wanted to say a couple things as it relates to this idea of media studies, whether it's social media or other forms of media. This is a special place, and so whether or not this is your major or you're just passing through, and I know you've talked about this in past conversations because I know what kind of professor you have, it is obviously very, very important to understand images and messages and storytelling, whether you are the producer of that content or the purveyor of that content, how it affects society is really, really important, right? Because we know that words matter, we know that images matter, and we know that the delivery of those words and images matter, because either you are creating discourse or you are sharing discourse, or you are driving discourse to some particular end. And what all of us have as decisions to make is, do we do that for good or evil? Have you thought about that
Like how it pertains to social media.
as it pertains to life?
Well, I'm gonna use like my Instagram. So I try to use it as much as I can to highlight other like creators that align with my views, especially when it comes to like women of color. Now it's Women's Month, whatever. So I take that, like everything that I repost, like it's something that's interesting to me, to like Latinx women, or like businesses that are local, that are driven by Latinx women. Like I try to promote that as much as I can because I know that's really important to me. I know it would benefit them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess that's the way.
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly. What's your name?
Raquel.
Raquel, thank you for that. Yeah, you're right on point, and in that, and again, I am always paying attention to the terms that I use, and so even invoking the term marginalized communities, right? That's a juxtaposition to something else, and if you say it that way, that means in part you are accepting that as a status, right? And I don't always accept it as a status, right? And so, but this idea that there is something that has to change, there is something that somebody has to be intentional about as it relates to how Latinx women are messaged to and interacted with, is a mantle that has to be taken up, right? So good for you. Awesome. So what do you think about your role in this space?
For me, I've already gone through that kind of change. Long story short, I was paid one time to take some pictures of some women, and they were nude, and I didn't really feel comfortable with it. And then after that, I just was like, I don't want to be that photographer, so I've totally flipped it. I don't do that anymore. I focus more now on natural beauty trying to promote a more positive image. I feel like you look at a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, and they're in exotic locations, it's all well, nice and done. But if you look at like King magazine or something, it's just like, turn around, show your booty, and we'll put a spotlight on it type
Okay.
stuff. So
So it's not nudity, it's the presentation.